Hi, this is BZ Rieger, and it's July 16th, and I'm doing a rambling by the river. Keegan's already gone all the way in. He's wet. It's a beautiful day. And as I was walking along and we found this little kind of beach area to sit, I was playing with, the wind's blowing a bit, although it's warm, so it's perfect temperature. That it's time, one way I would say it, originally I was playing with it's time to be who you really are. And then a gust of wind came and I thought, oh, maybe that's something that's helpful for people to play with, is that the storm is blowing in who you really are. And it's not really accurate, but from a linear perspective, it's certainly a good metaphor. And as I was playing with that, I was already connecting with one of you, and someone said, well, what does that mean, and who am I really? And that's each being's choice, but what I'm speaking to, what I'm wanting to give voice to, is that up until now, however you've flowed in your life, it hasn't been, for most beings, expressing the fullness of who you are, the totality of who you are. So it's, the little you, it's just in the shirt and with all sorts of constraints and constrictions and programming, yes, and conditions, some imposed on you externally, some imposed directly by yourself, or certainly perpetuated by yourself. And this, I think that's why the metaphor is an apt one, of the storm blowing in who you really are, because transparency is, well, it's been here for a long time, but it's coming in a way that's tangible, that, if you were looking, if your barometer of that is mainstream media, or more widely public, or to the public more at large, then that's here. And what is coming with that, the big first parts of that's coming, is, in the Epstein vein, although he's really just a small player in what you'll see is going to unfold with him, kind of a pitiful little palm errand boy, although doing lots of his own share of egregious things. But it's a much wider, what that is in connection to other big, components of it, and just the trafficking and the satanic abuse and all that intertwines, goes a step further than that, just in that area. And then there's other things that come from that. So in the revealing of that, in the stuff that's brought forward, in the awareness that comes forward within yourself, if you start to see specific data related to that could be pictorial, it could be video, it could be sound, it could be all sorts of things. And or as you're coming into contact with other beings who are seeing this, experience this, becoming aware of this for the first time. And then the rings, you could look at it as kind of concentric rings of trafficking, of slavery, of using linear words, of really evil sort of and twisted, inverted, um, hard to put the right words on it. Inverted expansion, inverted love. But as you see all that, there are different spheres, and they're kind of all one. The trafficking. What I'm trying to say is the trafficking is the smaller, the trafficking that is just nibbling around the edges now with Epstein. Is just a small ring, and that one itself, you'll see very quickly here. Is actually there are stories already starting to come out where it's you'll see that it's a little wider. Actually, it's much wider than that, going that way, and many more large spheres. Epstein-esque Nexium and other ones are like that, are part of that. Again, but that's all that. Then you're going to start to see all of the big name, household name in all different country household names of companies and structures and systems, whether they're transportation or entertainment or educational, whole range of things, are going to be in that sphere, and that will broaden what you're seeing, how that's involved. And then there'll be more of the coercion and the honeypotting and the satanic and the ritualistic, and that will again be another sphere on top of that. And then you're going to see how kind of the offshoots of that are more on forced labor of all ages and sizes and sorts, and for all things on planet and off planet, multiple areas, multiple spheres off planet, and that's a larger thing. And then you're going to see the kind of the puppeteering, where the controller's a false construct of that is controlling that, and that's a larger sphere. So you're getting a little broader to see just how all-encompassing it is. And then you're going to widen out to, and this will all come very, very fast now, very fast. And you're going to widen out from that to the slavery systems. And make no mistake about it, there are the most delicious, the most amazing, the most complex, the most well thought out, and intertwined, intricately intertwined, and devilishly beautiful slavery systems that go out so that sphere is even larger, which is going to make the original spheres that I just spoke about seem tiny, because the other one, the slavery systems, going out all the way until you get to the largest slavery system, which has touched every being, and that's the financial slavery system, which is really the crux of all of it. And all of the other things are additional revenue streams, additional loosh streams that come from that. But if this was a newspaper, all of what I just said is huge, and will bring a tremendous amount of revelation forward, a tremendous amount of things for people to feel into. Again, it's the inside first and then the outside, and to really go to the heart space, to really go to the expansion space, to really go to and it will be incredibly difficult. The forgiveness and the the gratitude for you just being here and alive and witnessing and part of all the breaking down, because as all of this unfolds, all things linear, you're going to see very, very quickly, don't apply. They don't apply, and they're not going to, if you want to say, solve it. That's not how that will come. Yes, there will be held to account as we step more fully into multidimensionality. That the holding to account actually is directly the being holding themselves to account and source. And it's not around linear things. The linear systems and structures and constructs can be a catalyst for that kind of a placeholder, a place to put someone so that it can be seen and can be literally and figuratively telegraphed out. So in what I wanted to ramble with you about today is in the blowing away, the blowing off the lid, the blowing, the blowing the cat out of the bag of what Epstein is just the tiniest fraction of what there is, and that's big. The Epstein thing is big, and all the tentacles that it has. But that will blow the lid off of you. The truth of who you are will then, you could say, be blown in because it's coming into you. All of the kind of the layers and the shells and the cloaking and the masks and the hiding and the layers of smallness, will blow right off of you. And so who you are, Shazam, will arrive. And for a lot of people, they're feeling that more and more. More apt to say they're acknowledging that. They're accepting that. They're not brushing that away more and more and more. And this is very, very exciting. Coupled in a time that will be, arguably, very frightening for many, very chaotic for many, very wrenching and difficult for many, for all in various ways, depending on where they are and how they're processing things and how they're holding things and how much they kind of try to lean to linear things of punishment and vehemence towards retribution and those kinds of things, which will not ease or quell some of what you're feeling. It's because it's that shearing force, because who you are is coming forward. Who you are is itself being revealed. And in this time, all will be prompted to step forward to do some of your roles, some of your jobs, some of your missions. And that is to help yourself and all others, and you'll come into connection with those that need that, of navigating all of this that's being revealed. Because there are many who, they've been snoring up a band and they're just all of a sudden go, what, and it's like, wow. So that's part of the who you are. For me, the wonderful thing is people will start, I've seen it in the last, it's Tuesday. So in the last, 3-4 days, with a number of beings, some I haven't even met, there were one or two just this morning where I've never met them before, but watching them in an interaction that I was having when I was in town was they had glimpses, they had something unfold in our conversation where, wow, who was that? So the who they are, was coming forward in that moment, and people are going to see it in abilities, that, so to say, were not there, and all of a sudden they are. really tangible, demonstrable, if you're not letting yourself freak out about it, cool, fun things. Um, it's, the words really fail, but it's so palpable and so powerful, and the currents and eddies and vibes and flow, like you can feel the wind on your face or hear the different sounds of the birds and trees, of love, and the varying frequency bands of love, of true amazing, like a gorgeous blue sky. If you think, oh wow, that's a gorgeous blue sky, or the magnificence of a real Gaia cloud. And so use that kind of feeling, use that, how that makes you feel, what you envision, what you see, what the sparkle of that, and now put that to what I'm describing of those frequencies of love. It's, you know um, it's something that many people have never really felt before, and it's everywhere. It's very noticeable everywhere. It's, this, and it's so, this sounds counterintuitive, but it's so pure, it's so huge, it's so strong and demonstrable and vivid and all-encompassing, that there can be some moments where it may be frightening or disconcerting or certainly overwhelming, and that's only, if you break your arm, you have a cast on it, and when it comes off, the air feels so different. It's like, whoa, it may be kind of prickly or something, because your skin, isn't used to that air moving. And then if you haven't had that, it's no big deal that you can feel the sun and the air and the moving, and it's not so noticeable. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's so, just placeholder words, so clean and so clear and so pure and so, I want to say, just full of beautiful crystalline sparkles in what you're feeling, that it takes your breath away. And each one of us will encounter that in various different ways, in a million times or more each day. And that's what the storm is blowing in or off of you, however you want to hold it. You know, who you are, who you really are. And then the fun begins. Not only the fun in getting reacquainted, in playing with that, and doing aerial tricks and jumps just because you think of it and you make it happen, or colors or creation or co-creation, all sorts of things. But that open heart, that love, swimming in that stream, being that stream, fully just lighting up that stream, so that you realize that you are not separate and never have been separate from it, is so delicious. And there's just this amazing sense of wanting to be connected and of service to others. And so at that moment, that the truth of who you really are, is, it's coming in, it's the time, the storm is blowing it in, it's cosmically lined up perfectly, that at that moment all the other beings who even haven't had the remotest contact with the truth of who they are, or even the thought of who they really are, could really use guidance and help, just love, just a tangible, connection there. And as everything, cosmically delicious, the divine timing where the storm bringing in and blowing, all the covers off, all of the masks off, all of the pretenses, all of the shadows and hidden off. And, of what's really been going on this planet and off-world. At the same moment that it's blowing off your own masks, your own layers, your own hiding, whatever you've had to hide from yourself, thinking you were small, those covers. It's blowing those off, and you see this amazing multidimensional garden of all possibilities, and you can reach out in that moment and help others who, may be totally blown away by and gobsmacked by what is going on, everything being upside down, and what I thought was one thing is not only totally not that, but it's something else. And anyways, for me, I feel it, I experience it, I notice it, I play with it, and I don't have any words for it. It's just simply beautiful, simply amazing, simply fantastic. So that was what I was nudged to play with on this rambling by the river. Much love to you. And when you see someone kind of have a moment where the truth of who they are, really are, comes in, it may stay and bloom, cascade through them, or it may just be a moment. It's so beautiful to watch, because all the doubt and all the smallness and all of the angst and trepidation and kind of all the conditioning, all the programming, simply dematerializes. It may only be for a moment, but it's astonishingly beautiful. And that's happening in you as well. And if that's already been happening for quite a bit, and you already know that you're not small in all that sense, as these new waves come in, and the storm gathers speed, because it's not just the planetary, it's from within you blowing out, you will realize that you're astonishingly beautiful and magnificent and fantastical. And the places you and we will all go and create and take part in. It's just amazing. So play with it, notice it, go forth and be who you really are. I love you.